Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for this video. I've been trying to actually film this video for the past month. I filmed it once. I didn't like how it turned out. I've been under the weather, and which I talked about a lot in my last video, what's been going on with my health, what's been going on with me. We've just recently had a death in the family, so we've just had a lot of stuff going on that's really prevented me from filming this video, but here I am finally. And true crime is my passion. This is why I started my channel. Excuse my cat back there, he's so hyper. But this is the reason I started my YouTube channel. I'm so excited about true crime. I've loved true crime ever since I was a child. I can remember actually, my dad was a cop, so he wrote a lot about murder cases, homicide victims, like just everything. He loved all that stuff because of what he done as a living. And I would sneak into his book collection and read about like the O.J. Simpson trial or John Benet Ramsey, just really highly publicized cases that he read about also. So I've always loved this. It's never scared me. It's never freaked me out. I've always been intrigued by it. And truthfully, honestly, like Nancy Grace has my dream job. Like she gets to go on TV every day and look fabulous and talk about all these things that are happening, and she just has the coolest job in the world. And I know that she's not a very liked person, but I've always liked her. So I hope she's at CrimeCon next week or next year, because I would love to meet her so much. So, but anyway, I'm just gonna dive right in and start talking about my case. I wanted to do this video because everybody's starting back to school, and I thought this was appropriate because it's about a teacher who gets murdered by a student. So I'm going to talk to you today about Colleen Ritzer. She was a 24-year-old Danvers High School math teacher. Danvers High School is located in Massachusetts. That's the only time I'm going to say that state because I cannot pronounce it right. It sounds like I'm saying something else, so I'm not going to say it anymore. So anytime I talk about Danvers, just know I'm talking about that state. So she was a teacher there, and she taught math for about 2 years, and she absolutely loved what she done. She always loved the idea of working with kids. Even when she was in school, she brought her little sister to school for show and tell. She loved kids so much. She loved being around them. She loved working with them. She always knew from an early age that she wanted to be in education. It was very important to her. So, ignore my cat. He's completely crazy tonight, as per usual. But Colleen was loved by everyone. Her students, her colleagues, her family, of course, absolutely loved her. She was a beautiful young woman, and she had her whole life ahead of her, and it was just completely ended so early before she was ever able to start a family, get married, you know, do anything, like pick out a wedding dress with her mother. Like it's terrible. It's a tragedy. But I'm going to tell you about the day that she was murdered. It was October 22nd, 2013. I don't know if you guys remember this. Like, I remember it happening, but I never really paid that close of attention to it. I don't know why. I think maybe I just had some things going on where I didn't really watch the news a lot. I've never really been a news person. I like alternative news. I'm not really for mainstream media. And when I started learning a lot about how the news lies to everybody was probably around 2012. So and this happened in 2013. So excuse me, I'm trying to get comfortable. It's really cold in my house, but I guess I just really wasn't paying attention to the news. But I do remember this happening. So it was just a typical day at Danvers High School. Colleen was teaching a class, and all the students were supposed to be working in their math workbook. And she noticed a student who was doodling and drawing in his workbook instead of doing what he was supposed to be doing, his assignment. And she went up to him, and she didn't discourage him. She didn't get on to him. She just said, you know, I didn't know you could draw. You're super talented. And then she also asked him to stay after school so she could help him. So she never discouraged her students. She always encouraged them to do and just, you know, do what they loved. So instead of getting on to him, like I said, she just encouraged him and told him how talented he was. And you know, he probably didn't have a whole lot of encouragement at home, so that was probably really nice for him to hear from her. And the student who witnessed the conversation, she said that was just Miss Ritzer. That's how she was. She always encouraged us. She never really discouraged us from doing what we wanted. So that was just the type of woman that Colleen Ritzer was. But like I said, it was just a typical day. And later that day after school, Colleen went to the restroom. I know as a teacher, you probably don't get a lot of restroom breaks. You can't leave your students. If you leave, like I remember how we acted up when our teacher left the room. So I'm sure you don't get a lot of bathroom breaks. So she went to the bathroom. On her way to the bathroom, she talked to one of her colleagues who was leaving. Colleen told her that she was having to stay after school and help a student. So she went into the bathroom and she would never be seen alive again. That day, Colleen didn't come home or call her mother. She called her mother every day after school to tell her about her day. So Colleen's dad actually went to the school to look for his daughter, could not figure out why she hadn't come home. And then the next day when she didn't show up to school, they actually pulled surveillance cameras, and what they found was grisly. It was awful. They found that a 14-year-old student had followed Miss Ritzer into the restroom. He pulled up his hoodie, put on gloves, and followed her into the restroom. He exited the restroom, went down outside the school, got a wheeling recycling bin, and wheeled it back up to the restroom. And this was all seen on the surveillance footage. That next day, authorities were alerted that Phillip Chism was not at school. And Phillip Chism was actually the student that she had encouraged the day before about his drawing. She had told him he was talented, even though he really should have been working in his workbook. And Phillip Chism followed Miss Ritzer into the restroom. He had his hoodie pulled up, gloves on his hands, which I'm sure she still knew who he was. And she was probably terrified to discover that her student followed her into the restroom. But he followed her in there with the box cutter, held it to her throat, threatened her that if she did not comply, he would kill her. He strangled her, raped her, and stabbed her 17 times with the box cutter. One time he stabbed her so deep that it actually nicked her spine, according to her autopsy. Later that day, authorities began searching for Phillip Chism. They found him walking down a highway with his backpack. Now, what they discovered in that backpack was pretty brutal. They actually found Miss Ritzer's ID, credit cards, iPhone, and her underwear. And they also discovered that he had a box cutter on him with dried blood. And when they asked him where the blood came from, he simply replied, "the girl." So he really wasn't into talking to authorities and telling them like what happened. And eventually he told them that he did murder Miss Ritzer and left her body in the woods. And he drew them a map on where to find her at, and they had no idea the scene that they were going to come upon. It was horrible. She was actually buried under some leaves and debris, but her body, the position that her body was in, is so heinous. He left her spread eagle with her knees bent, and she had a 3-foot tree branch inserted into her vagina. Her shirt was pulled up to expose her breasts, so she was basically naked. And the recycling bin was over near her body, and inside of it was Phillip's bloody clothes, bloody gloves, and I believe a pair of bloody shoes also. And near her body was a folded up piece of notebook paper with the words, "I hate you all," written in pencil. So this was a really chilling crime scene. I don't think they were expecting to really find that all this had been done to her. So this murder not only shook the school system and all the students and the teachers and the faculty, but it completely rocked the town of Danvers. This was a really tight-knit community, small community. Everybody was really close. Nobody could really believe that someone would do this to a teacher who was loved by so many people. And everybody who knew Phillip felt the same way. He hadn't been living there very long, probably around a month. I couldn't find much information about how long he was there. But, his teachers and his classmates said that he was quiet, but he was a nice kid. Like, they could not believe that he done this. And when they interviewed some of his older teachers and classmates, they said that he was really nice. He was also thought of as a leader. He actually was a security guard type leader on a field trip to the White House when he lived in Florida. So he was not, this was a surprise to everybody. They could not believe that he could commit this crime. But then when they interviewed his high school varsity soccer coach, they found out that in the weeks leading up to the murder that Phillip had been really withdrawn, really quiet, not really making conversation, and also not even celebrating his soccer goals at practice or at games. So he said it was not Phillip. It was not like him. When Chism was questioned by the authorities, he never gave a motive for why he killed Miss Ritzer. But he did tell them, of course, everything that happened. And he actually told them that on that day, October 22nd of 2013, he brought to school with him the murder weapon, several changes of clothes, gloves, a ski mask to sort of conceal his identity. I don't believe he knew that there were surveillance cameras in the school because, like I said, he'd only been going there around a month, and he didn't know that they had cameras up. So he truly believed he was concealing his identity with the ski mask and the hoodie and everything. So later his lawyers would argue that this was not premeditated, but how can you argue that when somebody brings to school a murder weapon and the things that they need to carry out that murder? So they argued that Miss Ritzer was overheard talking to Phillip Chism about his recent move to Danvers from Clarksville, Tennessee, and that triggered Phillip. I also read when I was doing research for this case that Phillip and his mom and two sisters moved 8 times in 6 years. And this was due to Phillip's parents, Stacy and Diane. They had a tumultuous relationship. They would often split up, get back together. I believe they even divorced at one point. But they moved so many times, and Phillip actually never really had his own bedroom. And at one of the last homes he stayed at in Tennessee, which was his home state, he shared one bedroom with his mother and 2 younger sisters. So I can imagine being a 14-year-old boy, a preteen, staying in a room with 3 females. That has to be horrific. But they argued that the trigger caused him to follow her into the restroom and attack her. Chism's lawyers also said that he was in a deep psychosis from the move, from his parents splitting up. They argued that his dad was an abusive alcoholic. He was mentally and physically abusive to Phillip and his sisters, and of course his mother. Now, my parents split up several times when I was younger. We moved houses. We never moved like states or towns or anything, but I can't understand moving and your parents divorcing making you want to murder somebody. But my theory is, since it was a sexually motivated murder, that he just wanted to be in control of something for once. He was not in control of anything in his personal life, so I think he just wanted to be in control. And when they did the autopsy on Colleen Ritzer, she had been raped, strangled, and stabbed 17 times in the neck, one time so brutal that it nicked her spine. And of course she was later molested with the tree branch. So he had to be deeply disturbed. And he was actually found competent when evaluated for trial. He was found competent to stand trial. And how they found him competent for that, I have no idea. Because a 14-year-old that brutally rapes and murders someone and inserts a tree branch into their vagina, I do not understand how that is competency, but whatever. I'm not making excuses for him. I'm not saying that he, was triggered or did have a psychosis. He may just be a plain evil human being. I don't know. But to me, that's just really disturbing. That's not typical, get mad at somebody, stab them and run away. That's brutal treatment. So, also, this was really weird, I thought. He used her credit card to go see a movie and to buy a meal the night of her murder. So he wasn't even fazed. Like, he really had no intentions of not getting caught, I guess, if you could say. So he really didn't care what happened. He carried out his crime and then went on about his business like he didn't care. He was actually charged as an adult with the murder of Colleen Ritzer. He was charged as a juvenile with rape, unnatural rape, regular rape. I guess the unnatural rape was the tree branch. And he was charged with robbery for taking her credit cards and iPhone and everything and using her credit cards to go to the movie and go to dinner that evening. And it was never really, told what movie he saw. They just know he was at the theater because, of course, he used her credit card and his cell phone was last pinged at the Hollywood Hit Cinema. One article said he saw Blue Jasmine, which was a Woody Allen film, and we all know that Woody Allen is twisted. And another article said that he saw Gravity with Sandra Bullock, which was about an astronaut. So I'm not really sure what movie he saw, but there's just not a whole lot of information out there. And like I said, there's conflicting reports. But for somebody to, I guess it's normal. Like, if you murder somebody and you rob them, and if you're a 14-year-old boy, you don't think you're going to get caught, I guess, if you steal somebody's credit card and go on like a spree or whatever. So maybe he just thought he wouldn't get caught. I don't know. But why he didn't ditch the murder weapon, why he was, when he was found, he had the murder weapon on him. He had her underwear on him. His clothes were left, near the scene. I don't really understand the point of him trying to conceal his identity with the ski mask and the hoodie pulled up over his head in the surveillance video. I don't really understand any of that, but I don't understand why people do what they do. This is, I love true crime and I love reading about it, but he absolutely gave no motive about anything. So, and what's even crazier is when he was in the juvenile detention center, he tried to do this again. He actually kicked off his flip-flops and followed a female worker into the restroom. Yes, into the restroom. And tried to strangle and rape her, but she was able to scream for help, so the crime was stopped. So he obviously is just an evil person. I mean, if you're going to try and commit the same crime that you're on trial for yet again. So I really just think he wanted to be in control of his life. He felt like it had just spiraled out of control, everything that had happened. But I mean, it's really sad that, he could have potentially been an artist or a professional soccer player. Like, you never know. Honestly, that day, 2 families were robbed of their children. Not only did Colleen Ritzer lose her life, but Phillip Chism's family, they lost him. He's gone. Like, he's in prison. He got 2 40-year sentences. He got the possibility of parole, actually. And he has to stay at a juvenile detention center until he's 21 before he actually goes to prison. So, but his family lost him. He's lost forever. And during his trial, he absolutely showed no emotion whatsoever. The only thing he did do was he kind of acted like a brat. Like, there was a couple days where he didn't want to come to court. And I think they actually did not even have court that day. I don't know why they didn't just handcuff him and haul his ass out there, but they just didn't have court that day for some reason. I don't know. So now I'm going to dive into the theories for this case. Like I said, my theory was I believe that Phillip was not in control of his personal life, so he wanted to be in control of something. So he followed her into the restroom that day to, you know, maybe tell her how he felt or just try to force himself on her, and she was like, no, and she fought back. So unfortunately, he got mad and stabbed her 17 times. And a lot of people believe, including the authorities, believe that he was just really obsessed with Miss Ritzer, and you know, she refused his advances or whatever, and so he thought, if I can't have her, nobody can have her. That's pretty much the main theory. There's not a whole lot out there because he didn't give a motive. Like I said, like, he's still to this day, like, it's been 5 years. He still has not given a motive to this day. So let me know what your guys' theories are on this. I believe he possibly could have been in love with her or infatuated with her, but he truly just wanted to finally be in control of something in his life. I believe that sexually related crimes and homicides are about control, because when you rape somebody, you are in control of them. So just let me know what you guys think, and give this a thumbs up for more true crime videos. I'm so excited. I'm actually working on another true crime video for you guys, so hopefully it'll be uploaded soon. And please like and subscribe. Thank you guys. Bye.